From the burning fire, the witch began to cast a spell that she would seal both the sun and the moon in the heavens. Those who follow the truth have eternal life, and those who turn away from it face oblivion. The daughter, holding a smartphone in her hand, asks her mother to look at the picture of a beautiful girl, and screaming says that it is very beautiful. Everything sparkles and shines. Mom agrees with the girl and at the same time asks what it is. The girl enthusiastically says that this is her novel, which was released today, and that the artist who drew the cover is very popular because she has been waiting for it for 6 months. The woman calmly says that the name is good and it's just another banality. How many times has she said it? This blonde with long hair is the main character, whose name is Delia. Even though she is an orphan, she does not give in to fate because she has a mind and a beautiful appearance. Mom is lost in her thoughts and asks her daughter if she will come to the retirement ceremony later. My daughter screams, "Let them listen to her first and then ask." Mom, stunned and screaming, turns around asking again if she will come. Meanwhile, the daughter thinks about it and answers that she doesn't know. An adult lady, leaving home in a calm voice, tells her daughter to do as she wants, but don't come by car because there are traffic jams. But if she does get ready, then let her wear what's hanging in her room because it's expensive. The girl saw the dress and was very upset because this style was not to her taste, and it looked like it came from someone else's shoulder. On the way to the ceremony, Mom thinks about a light green dress. If she could wear it, she would have done it a long time ago. Entering the inner hall of Chongguinam, she realized that life as a historian teacher ends today. The man thanked the teacher for working in their history department for 20 years, as she had achieved great scientific results and contributed to the education of personnel. The teacher, who had worked at the university for many years for the first time, did not know what to do. The man asked to take group photos and told the teachers to come forward and the tall ones to take a place in the back. The teacher was completely upset, but when she saw her daughter in a green dress taking a photo on her phone, she was very happy. After all, she came after all. After the ceremony ended, mother and daughter walked together to the bus stop. Because of my mother's bad mood, they did not talk at all. My daughter wrote something on her phone all the time, and eventually my mother couldn't restrain herself and made a remark for her to stop sitting on her phone and ruining her eyesight. The girl continues to look at the phone, but her mother, in order to distract her, says that this dress suits the girl. The young lady says she, of course, had to dress special for her mother's ceremony. Remembering her childhood, she envied children who wore such clothes. But the young girl says that such clothes are worn by those who like them. A girl interrupts her mother's thoughts, asking which title is higher than Baron or Duke. To this question, the teacher quickly answers that the highest title is Duke, and naturally, it turns out that Baron is the lowest rank. The young lady asks herself what she should do. Her mother asks what the girl is talking about. After all, at first she thought that the title of Baron was higher, so she wrote it like that in her novel. The teacher, without holding back her laughter, asked what she was writing about. The girl in the green dress screams for her to stop laughing because she is talking seriously. Mom asks what her daughter did during history lessons. She assumes that the girl was sleeping, but she could have asked her. The girl told her that she had asked many times, but she ignored her every day and responded somehow. The woman with glasses replies that she should have looked since she doesn't know the basics of cross-validation. The girl screams that she was pressed for deadlines and she was not herself. Adjusting her glasses, the teacher says that her daughter doesn't know how thoughtfully worthy authors write. Mom explains to her daughter that an essay will be good only if it is written carefully, selecting one word after another. If it is written haphazardly just to write it, then it is a mess. The works of writers who put their soul into it will be constantly presented, having withstood the time of 100,000 years. The teacher says that those essays that are written in a clumsy manner as she wrote will be forgotten within a year. The girl screams sadly, "Okay." The young lady, without giving up, answers that even if one person finds solace in her novel, she will write only for him and maybe for herself. Mom realized that, however, this one person would also mock her novel. The young girl wondered how someone who writes books could confuse a duke with a baron. The girl clutched the dress in her hands after hearing words from her mother, with an order not to tell anyone that she was her daughter. Not knowing what to say, the girl stood up and screamed that she was stupid, asking her mother if she was happy. The girl cried out that her mother is smart and never makes mistakes, but she is stupid and makes mistakes even in such things. And that's because she looks like the father she's never met. The girl angrily told the woman not to worry because she would not tell anyone that she was her daughter. Running away from the bus stop in anger because the girl no longer wants to continue the conversation with her mother. Mom, who did not expect such a turn of action, wanted to just talk. But Jihi did not let her say a word, simply answering that everything she said was correct and there was not a single wrong word. The saddened girl asked the woman if she could console her at least once as a mother. This conversation greatly upset the girl. Her face was washed with tears, because this was not how she imagined today. The teacher realized that, first of all, she was a mother and should not have talked to her daughter like that. Mom realized that she had upset Jihi because the girl is very vulnerable and does not yet know how to cope with resentment. As if sensing trouble, the mother screams with all her might for the girl to stop because the traffic light has turned yellow. Without thinking for a minute, the teacher runs after her to save her daughter and pushes her daughter onto the asphalt. And meanwhile, Mom takes the hit of the trolley bus herself, not thinking about the consequences. After all, this action should save the girl. Jihi falls hard on the asphalt, hits her knee, and experiences severe pain. She still doesn't understand why this happened. The girl's eyes turned red, but not from pain, but from the fact that she saw her mother, who gave her everything she had. Jihi, choking with tears, sobs like a thunderstorm and looks at her lying mother, who is lying almost unconscious. Mom, gathering all her strength, whispered that thank God she survived. Her girl is alive. Jihi asks why Mom is lying, and in response she only hears that she should not look at her. In the girl's eyes, everything seemed to float in a fog. When the girl woke up, she saw strangers who had strange clothes, as if they were dressed for a performance or parade. Suddenly, out of nowhere, there was a very loud knock of a club on the floor, and someone shouted, "What impudence!" A young man in a knight's uniform screams, asking if she knows what she just did. The girl doesn't understand at all what this uncle is talking about. The evil knight asks the girl why she called him uncle. After all, how dare she from a lower class speak like that? The young lady asks what he's talking about because she hears such a word in a society of liberal democracy. After all, if he says something like that somewhere. But suddenly, without finishing her speech, the girl comes to a realization. Chang sees only boots and at the same time tells the uncle to listen because she's not that principled, but why shout like that because she hears everything? The girl raised her eyes and saw the shoulders and continued to say that she too fell apart there, not because she wanted to fall apart, and now she feels guilty. But when the girl saw the young man's face, she said that we must warn him in future because filming was going on. A voice was heard from a small crowd. One of the people asked if they had seen the girl here. The evil knight called the girl little one. Therefore, she was indignant because why on earth would they call her that as an adult? The little girl, seeing her reflection on the knight's uniform, screams. Not understanding anything, Chong pushes the knight away with all her might because he is very angry and she doesn't like him. Two young men ran up to the falling knight and asked if the general was okay. The girl looked at her hands and couldn't believe where she got so much strength. The young lady does not understand anything at all where she is and what happened to her. There are many questions in her eyes to which the answer still needs to be found out. The teacher came to her senses to see knights, one of whom screamed that it was not enough for her to step on the mantle of the respected duke, but she also attacked his guard. After all, this is daring. The girl, in despair from the accusations that were made against her, thinks, wait. She didn't want to not understand what was happening here. The evil knight grabbed the girl by the dress and told her to thank heaven that their master was a duke. Now, if she had stepped on the baron's mantle, she would have said goodbye to her life right there. The guy who stood behind the knight said that all this happened because of the bastard Moulton. The knights talked among themselves about how, if he had not appropriated the merits of their duke, he would now have risen to the title of baron. Meanwhile, the girl sighed with ease, thinking that she was not to blame. In front of the knight, and he seemed to laugh at them. People in the crowd thought that the title of duke was higher than the title of baron. How surprised they were. At that time, the young lady laughed because she knew that the baron was at the very bottom. What's going on with you people? Well, they made me laugh. By God, you are talking the same nonsense as Jihi. The knight does not intend to tolerate this girl, and told her that because she stepped on the mantle, this is an insult to the duke which she will not get away with. The girl, who had not yet managed to get up, suddenly began to kick her with shoes. She screams in pain. The impudent men attack even more. Even her screams do not stop them. The girl asks for help, but everyone just watches. In pain, the girl, without losing strength, screamed that enough idiots and thereby pushed them away from her. The young lady getting up said okay. She realized that the gentleman was of blue blood and at the same time apologized for stepping on his clothes. The girl asks if it's worth it to be beaten in broad daylight on the street in front of everyone. The young lady screams, but honestly, anyone who looks at it will think that she has finished off the man. The beaten girl screams to the onlookers and asks why no one stopped them. After all, they can help the person they are beating, but instead they stand like a pillar and watch. Then the girl turns to the Duke and says that despite the fact that his subordinates are causing unrest, he will not blink an eye. It seems that stepping on the hem hurt the gentleman's pride. Poking her finger at him, the girl tells the aristocrat to behave appropriately and not to infringe on adults. The knight opened his mouth in surprise, while the girl, without looking back, ran away from the place of the insult. One of the subordinates shouted, "Catch the girl!" The Duke stopped them and said, "Leave this child alone because they are late for a meeting." The knights objected to the Duke and said that they couldn't leave it like that because they had to grab her and teach her a lesson. But what the people would think? The second knight exclaimed correctly. Otherwise, rumors would spread again and harm his reputation. The Duke, without looking back, asked his subjects if they were going too. Meanwhile, the girl who ran away stopped near the house because she had a minute to catch her breath, and she sat down and thought about what she had done. And if she had been hit with the axe that she was holding in her hands during those wars, she probably wouldn't be alive here anymore. The young lady looked at her hand and saw a scratch there and thought, what cruel bastards. Looking to the left, the girl saw a mirror and herself in it. The teacher thought that probably the retirement ceremony had already ended, and she had an accident when she was saving Ji-hee. And when she opened her eyes, she was already here. She also turned out to be a child. Chong looks at himself in the mirror and thinks, what is this, the color of his hair? For some reason, his face is familiar. For a while, the teacher thought she was sleeping and the dream was so vivid and realistic that she even felt pain. Only this is not a dream. When the blonde was sitting, she saw two little girls and greeted them. The little girls were named Young Lady Delia. Delia is a little girl who was abandoned in a stable one cold winter night and survived by scraping by. The young lady is that child whose life is pure misfortune and wandering. This is the poor orphan, unfortunate Delia. And today, the rebel Delia got into trouble in the square because she stepped on the mantle of Duke Pearl and stepped on the Baron's mantle and on the ruler's mantle too. The little girls asked the question whether Delia would die because wherever she went, there was no place where they would not drive her. The kids thought out loud that a dress embroidered with precious stones and sparkling jewelry was something that could not be Delia's fate. The little girl pitied the orphan Delia, calling her a clumsy loser and a rebel. But the little girl took pity on the young lady and whispered in her ear to beware of the young man with scarlet eyes. A little more time passed, and the little girl said goodbye to the beautiful blonde, wished her good luck, and quickly ran away. The young girl says that this is all out of the blue, and who is Delia? After thinking a little, the main character remembered everything that happened to her before she ended up here. She remembered her daughter, their conversation, and the girl who was bookmarked on her smartphone. Chong Gwynam realized that she was the teacher who was returning home with her daughter. Because of one action, she turned into a young girl. Suddenly, the main character heard the voices of people who were probably looking for her. She thought that these were the men from the square. The warriors were ready to search all the alleys and shops in order to find the fugitive. The young lady screams and thinks about how she can escape. But suddenly, someone grabs her from behind and covers her mouth with his hand. The young man, without taking his hands from the girl's mouth, whispers to her to be patient a little. The young lady smelled a pleasant vanilla scent. When the voices approached, the girl breaks away from his hands and asks what this means, because it was quite sudden. The stranger asked the girl for forgiveness, and after that, she thanked him for his help. The guy asked the girl why she is thanking him, because he is the one who runs away. The young lady wonders if they were looking for him. When the stranger took his bag onto his shoulders and easily climbed onto the roof, the young lady, taking a closer look at him, screamed that he was a thief. Delia asks the guy what he stole there. The guy, surprised, replies that he only steals girls' hearts. These words really touch the girl. The main character understands that it is impossible to believe, but she was convinced with her own eyes that she was inside Jiha's novel. Asking yourself questions, is this a dream, or the afterlife, or something else? Walking along a shopping area of the street, a girl hears a man turning to a woman and shouting for her to quickly put apples in a bag. The woman answers if he is in such a hurry he could have come yesterday. A completely different world. And no matter what happens there, the main character will not know what happened to Chongguanam in this reality. Walking down the street, a woman thinks about her daughter and whether everything will be okay, because she has investments insurance and a pension, so you don't have to worry about her means of subsistence. A thoughtful girl walking down the street sees a man running whose apple has fallen from his bag. She screamed at the uncle that he dropped the apple. In response, the man shouted that he had no time. Let her eat it. When the blonde looked around, she heard a man quickly screaming that he had big problems and that this was a disaster. The girl sat down to pick up the apple and again plunged into thoughts about her daughter, regretting that she had unintentionally spoken such harsh words to her because they were the last in their conversation. The main character decided not to take these thoughts very seriously because her head is full of only one regret and many questions. But this has already happened, and time cannot be turned back. Biting an apple, the blonde cheers herself up and thinks positively, because anyway, she has nothing to do after retiring, and because it's better than fooling around at home. The young lady sat down on a bench in the park and thought that she was young and had a lot of strength because life energy was surging throughout her whole body. This is such a simple youth when just one apple puts you in a good mood. The main character, having eaten an apple, thought not knowing that she would feel so good again. Because along I'm ready to enjoy this youth. The girl thinks that first she needs to find out what kind of place she is in. After all, everyone understands her Korean language without any problems, and she also understands it by ear. Delia looks at the streets and notices that there are no magnificent buildings in these surroundings, because apparently this is a settlement of common people, which can be judged by the style of buildings and the clothes of the people. All of this was similar to Europe somewhere between the Middle Ages and modern times. The girl realized that her name was Delia and thought that she was an orphan who had neither clothes nor food nor shelter. The young lady screams that she must have at least some coin and suddenly notices that there is a pendant on her neck that she can sell for money. After all, to be born at such a time as a person from the lower strata is a merciless fate like Delia's. Walking down the street, the girl meets a man and asks him where she is. But the man looked at her in surprise without answering. Delia thought her question seemed stupid and strange. Approaching another man, the young lady said that she could not count, and asked what year it was 15 years ago. The unfamiliar man thought and replied that now is the year 351, according to the imperial calendar. Delia thought that this was not a European calendar, and turning to the man, she said how smart he was, but asked if he understood politics. A conversation began between them. The girl asked the man what was happening in neighboring countries lately, and what people were talking about. The man does not know which neighboring country he is being asked about, because there is not one or even two. Without coming up with anything else, the girl answered from above. The man asks if she is talking about Gloria. An unfamiliar man claims that all they are doing is making noise because now everyone has crossed the border of the empire there. The young lady thinks, what does this mean, because the name of this country is Imperium. After all, people who left their country and crossed the border because this means that the circumstances here are much more favorable than in other countries. The girl thinks that this country is quite vast. And after all, this place is the capital of the state. At the same time, the man says that society is also in chaos because people are losing their jobs everywhere, and the situation is such that it is better to close the borders. The main character understood what this feeling of hostility was like, and this is just the opinion of one person carrying information, so there is no point in listening further with interest. The girl says she has one more question. The man with a dissatisfied face asks what, and the young lady whispers where she can make money. When the man heard the question, he got very angry and asked because that's why she interrogated him. I didn't hear the answer. The man shouted very loudly that there was an illegal immigrant here, and the young lady screamed no, and at the same time ran away with all her might because she didn't want to be captured by the military again. Having run away from the park, the young lady caught her breath a little. She saw around her beautiful ladies in very beautiful dresses, and somewhere in the distance a voice was heard screaming, "Buy flowers." Among these women was the wife of the Earl of Chelsea, who was wearing a black lace dress. The main character stood on the square and watched how young girls earn money by selling flowers to women in beautiful dresses. It seemed to her that this was a different street compared to the street where she was, because here you can earn money. Delia thought hopefully that she would look for work and look closely at the flower sellers watching them. The girl can already imagine what flowers she will sell. The main character is so interested in this idea, and she thinks laughing because she is a creative housekeeper without capital. The girl overheard a conversation between the saleswomen, one of whom complained that all the flowers had wilted, and the other meanwhile advised her not to pick all the flowers at once, but just run and pick them often. The upset traders left their workplace prematurely. The main character was wondering where the girls went, and she decided to keep an eye on them. After a short time, they came to a flower meadow. The saleswomen talked to each other all the time about flowers. Dahlia, being in a good mood, decided to say hello to the girls with the hope of making friends with them, but the girls did not want to make contact with the stranger. They did not even answer her questions. The main character asked them if they pick and then sell flowers here, and how much they earn by selling one flower, and if among these flowers the best-selling ones are. She did not receive an answer, because the saleswomen continued to remain silent. The girl really liked one of the flowers, and she decided to pick it here too, and the saleswomen screamed at her not to touch the flowers and pushed her with all their might. Delia did not expect such behavior from the girls and asks why they are pushing. The angry saleswomen shouted that this was their plot, and the flowers from it belonged to them, so let her pick it somewhere else. The main character screams rudeness and realizes that at her age she cannot fight with children. Suddenly, someone from behind asks if she wants to pick flowers, because there are more of them outside the western gate than here. A beautiful girl with long black hair explains that it is far away, so there are no people there, and she is just about to go there and asks if they can go together. Trembling, Delia asks if the stranger will take her with her, because she is afraid of these evil girls. The brunette, turning to the girl, says that she sees her for the first time, assuming that she is arriving, and willingly offers her her basket because they will go pick flowers together. The girls got to know each other, and Delia learned that the beautiful brunette's name was Bellucci. Walking along the road together, the girls started talking, and Delia asks Bellucci if she came from Italy. The brunette does not understand what her friend is talking about, and the main character decided not to ask such questions anymore. Arriving at the clearing, the girls collected 2 full baskets of very beautiful flowers, and one of them says that this will be enough because we need to return. Arriving at the market, the girls wished each other good luck and went in different directions to sell flowers. Delia is standing at the market and thinking about how she can sell flowers, because there are a lot of competitors and she already knows where to start. The main character, seeing a girl in a beautiful dress, asked her to wait, but this girl boldly replied that she was not buying flowers. Delia claims that her flower simply suits the lady's dress very well, and thus attracted her interest. The main character, putting a flower to the lady's bow, is happy, and says how luxurious her dress has become, and suggests that even if she stuck a flower of the same color in her hat, it would be just a sight for sore eyes. The young lady claims that if a flower is pinned to a lady, then this work will be called service. The lady answered. Laughing, just look at her and agreed to buy 5 flower buds from the girl. From what she heard, the girl thought that she had seen how to trade. At the same time, the woman asks how much she should pay. Delia was confused because she didn't know the prices or currency. The main character says wait please because she doesn't know how to count and she needs to think. But by performing such an action, she realized that there was no way out. But Delia quickly realized that she shows her index finger and says about as much, and thinks that she will determine by the look of the lady. The buyer looks at her and asks what coin she should pay with because she has never bought flowers, and therefore does not know the prices. The main character screams 5 farums, and at the same time, other saleswomen run up to the lady and offer their flowers. There was a lot of noise around the lady, but Delia quickly dispersed the saleswomen, arguing that it was her buyer. Having sold flowers, the young girl did not know how she should now look into Bellucci's eyes, and what she was thinking about not knowing the prices for taking up the trade. Ferrum means iron in Latin, and iron coins rust easily and have low value. But they are easy to make, of course. There are more valuable coins made of gold or silver. So look everywhere the name of the country Imperium is written in Latin, because the young lady in her own way researched this topic. The satisfied girl thinks asking herself the question that this is a world completely created by Jihi, and the more she learns about it, the more interesting it becomes. But then the girl wonders where the homeless Delia should sleep, because she needed to earn money to go to the inn. The girl understands that selling flowers is clearly not an option, because anyone can easily pick flowers and sell them, but she has nothing suitable for selling anything else. The young lady steps down the street and thinks that a different tactic is needed, but then she notices a small hut in front of her. The main character thinks that this hut was abandoned unfinished because it seems a little creepy to her, but there are no other options. Delia says she'll tidy up a little because not everything there is trash. When the young lady enters the hut, she sees that the people have left, simply leaving the building, as is. But then the girl looking at the things left behind realizes that she has found that very different tactic. A short time later, the flower sellers on the street are very upset because no one buys flowers from them. The kids don't understand what's going on. But suddenly several ladies run near them. One of them screams how long this girl will work. And another lady from the crowd screams that they said that they will finish when the flowers wither, so they need to hurry. The kids don't understand what these women are talking about, so they decide to run after them. Well, when they approach this place, they are surprised to see a very large crowd of aristocrats. One of the girls asks what is that there, and is that building a tent, and the second tells her friend to look at the girl near the entrance to the tent. They understand that this is Bellucci. When the next lady comes out, the brunette invites the next one. The woman asks the lady who just came out how it all went and whether the rumors are true. The woman only shows her finger up to confirm the rumors, and the woman's interest only intensifies. When the next madam enters the hut, Bellucci asks to leave the money inside, and the aristocrat agrees. When a woman enters the tent, she wonders whether she should really believe it, but when she sees the situation inside, she is a little surprised. The main character sits in the middle of the room near a table with plants, and she tells the lady to sit down. After all this, a lady with golden hair runs up to Bellucci and tells the girl to look at what she found there. But the brunette only cries the main character is surprised because she doesn't understand anything, after which she runs up to her friend and asks why she is crying and what happened. The girl is just in tears and asks Delia what she should do because she could hardly sell only 2 flowers, and she will receive it again from her mother when she returns home. Delia places her hands on her friend's shoulders and tells her to listen carefully, after which the girl claims that she will now build a tent there. Therefore, you can earn much more money than selling flowers, after which the lady with golden hair asks if the girl will help her. A short time later, they finish all the work. The young lady says that such is the power of youth, and they managed it in an instant. The brunette asks Delia what she is up to because it's so hot today, and Delia is wearing gloves. Bellucci tells Delia that this cannot be done because she must sell the flowers before the sun sets, and the main character says that she has a question for Bellucci's student. After which she extends her hand and asks in what cases gloves are used. The girl is assumed that they are created to protect against the cold, and also when working with dangerous objects or during battles. The brunette had also seen noble ladies wear gloves, but not for protection. The golden-haired lady pats her friend on the head and says that she got out of it easily. Well, the girl, when she sees her friend putting on the rest of the costume, screams if Delia is really going to do something dangerous. The main character only asks Bellucci for help with tying her costume. The girl says that there is nothing that could be used to tie it. Then the young lady hands her a pendant and tells her to try to tie it with this. The main character asks her friend if she only sold flowers and didn't work anywhere else. The young lady says that her friend usually eats so little that she can't even walk. The brunette asks how she knows all this, and Delia says that a person's palm can tell a lot. Just by looking at the palm, you can find out whether it is a child, a man, or a woman. You can also see even his state of health and profession. The young woman stands up and says that her friend's hand is a little rough, but there are no calluses on it, and the surface of her nail is uneven, and this is a sign of lack of protein. She adds that hands can reveal a lot about a person. Well, not only hands are informative, but also physique, intonation, appearance, and gait. And then such information may be forbidden, so the golden-haired lollipop asks if she still looks like a child. The brunette is surprised by her friend's transformation, and Delia tells Bellucci that from now on, she is an adult with mystical powers, and she needs Bellucci's help. The girl told her friend to go outside and take a good look at the people. Then find the one who is dressed more beautifully than the others, but with the gloomiest expression on her face. And if the brunette says certain words to her, the lady will certainly follow her. Therefore, now the brunette turns to this woman and says that she knows one outstanding fortune teller, which truly will predict anything. The woman is a little shocked by this, but she agrees. Now Bellucci says that she didn't think that miss would really follow her, but she doesn't understand whether it's enough to bring only one person, because to make money you need more people. Nady, with golden hair, says that one is enough. After this session, rumors about the fortune teller begin to spread. One woman sitting at the table with her friends says that thanks to her from today on, she will be able to sleep peacefully. The lady says that for several nights she simply couldn't sleep at all due to anxiety. Her friends say it's good that she went to the gurney, after which the two of them ask where this place is, and the main character at this time says that rumors spread faster than us. The brunette understands that everything turned out as Delia said, and a lot of people gathered. The woman who entered the tent says that it is surprising because a fortune teller has never visited their village. The brown-haired woman asks where she came from. The main character says that those who have mysterious magical powers do not remember the places they wander through. The aristocrat just continues talking and asks where the girl learned this. The main character thinks that this woman continues to talk unnecessary things. Delia wonders if she is testing her abilities or if she is unable to keep quiet. Yes, she looks at the aristocrat, but she just continues to talk. The woman claims that the air there is not very good and asks how about working in a more presentable place. She raises her fan and says that people of noble birth are very sensitive to air. And the lady with golden hair notices the ring on the woman's hand and realizes that it is quite thin. But wearing something like this is too modest for a noble girl. But then she realizes that this is Gimmel's ring. It is a high-end engagement ring that was popular among aristocratic women in the Middle Ages. Its peculiarity is that 3 such rings can form one, and according to tradition, each ring belongs to 3 people, one of them for the groom. The second is due to the bride, and the third, like this woman's, is kept by the witness. This is the 3rd ring at the future wedding, where the groom puts it on the bride and plays the role of unity of the couple. After the ceremony, it will sparkle on the bride's left ring finger. The main character says that a prediction has appeared, and if the woman is interested, then let her put the money in this box. The brown-haired woman is a little shocked. She says that she hasn't even said anything yet, and then screams that the girl is a fraud. She heads towards the exit and shouts that the mysterious magical power does not exist, and the fortune teller chatters that the head will come. But the lady with golden hair only says that among the people who hastily raise a toast, there is not a single one who understands the unhappy heart. The woman looks very interested in this, and the young lady continues and says that on the day of the vow, all 3 shed tears. 2 of them were tears of happiness. The only one left was shedding bitter tears. The woman, shocked, asks how the fortune teller knew. And the main character says that this is a mysterious magical power. The woman asks who she is. And the main character just says what a beautiful ring she has. The girl claims that it is dangerous to carry an important thing like that, and suddenly she will lose it. But the lady with golden hair asks if this is exactly what the woman wants. The brown-haired woman just clenches her fists. Delia continues and says that the woman is a witness to the marriage and at the same time does not want their wedding. The main vision says that this may be due to the man's betrayal. The college stranger says that the girl is the very first who guessed about this ring. The young lady thinks that this is certainly true, because who in ordinary life would wear a ring that is intended for storage? She invites the stranger to sit down first, and she will listen to her story. Then the woman does so and begins her story. The brown-haired woman claims that she has a sister 2 years older than her and has been close friends with the groom since childhood. And even when they grew up, they were still close, after which one day, an old duke, seeing a portrait of his sister, proposed to her. The girl, of course, was against it, so she refused, but the father, without paying attention, decided to hold the wedding ceremony. But then, on the wedding day, the sister disappeared along with the groom, although this was reported everywhere they could not find her. And everyone immediately decided that sister committed suicide because of an unwanted wedding, but the woman did not stay. She recalled that her sister liked to say that she wanted to live in a house overlooking the sea, after which she finally found her relative in a hut on the seacoast. As soon as the girl saw her, she didn't even greet her. She came out and cried with words of apology. Not surprisingly, the groom came out from behind holding a small box in his hand. He said that they would soon have a magnificent wedding and asked the woman to become their witness. After hearing this, the brown-haired girl, angry, wanted to leave them, but her sister, crying, held her back and said that they would soon have a child, because she became a witness out of despair because she has no right to be angry. The lady turns to the fortune teller and asks her to tell her what to do and how to get her sister back. The main character asks the lady if she told her parents, and the woman replied that she did not. Next, he asks the brown-haired woman to put her hand on the box because the prediction has been determined. Let what is supposed to happen and don't ruin the fate of others, but just quietly observe. The lady cried out nonsense because her sister is the daughter of a viscount, and she received only the highest quality. Delia calmly asked the girl why she didn't take her with her if she really was against her sister's wedding and had long ago thrown this ring into the river. The main character looks at how the girl holds her hands and continues to say, "If you really wanted to take your sister with you, you would have told your parents. However, if you hated a man, then with the help of people, you could teach him a lesson, but you didn't do that." These words really touched the aristocrat, and she began to cry. Delia took her hand and calmingly said that she understood her concern about her sister and how heavy it was in her heart when she couldn't tell anyone. The main character arguing that even if from the outside it seems like the road to hell for this person, it can be heaven. And if it's so unbearable, you can help by respecting your sister's choice. Delia, holding the crying girl's hand, asserts that this is the only way you and your sister can find happiness. Men and women coming to Delia were very surprised and screaming and asked how she knew everything. When an unfamiliar man entered the room, Delia looked at him carefully. Because he has a strong arm and physique, this betrays his stubborn behavior. And the man asks how she knew that he was a military man. Looking at the next man, the main character realized that fate was favorable to him. Except for children, he couldn't have any problems. The surprised man asked how she knew that it was because of the children. The young girl screams because it's definitely because of the man, and how did she find out? But the fortune teller was attentive, because when the girl, as soon as she entered, she blabbed everything. Dahlia replied that she could call it a mysterious, mystical force. Continuing her work, the main character asked the girl to put her hand on the box and asked her to say what the girl wants to know from the future. Although within a long history, eras have changed many times, and the lives of people are not very different, having been born only a few decades in that fleeting moment. Everyone who came into Delia's room asked different questions. The young man said that he gave up his chance for promotion to a colleague, and this haunts him all the time, asking the fortune teller whether he did the right thing. And they all regret what happened. An elderly man is worried that his only daughter is wandering the world, but he is afraid that something bad will happen to her. The main character sees that they are worried about what has not yet happened. A young, beautiful girl tells the fortune teller that everyone around her says that her boyfriend has a bad reputation and tells her to stay away from him. And he asks Delia whether she should continue seeing him. Then I understand that they suffer when they try to catch a pie in the sky. Holding her hands over the box, the main character said that with her mysterious magical power, she foresaw her future inscribed on the flower. The fortune teller opens the box. Flowers fall out of it, however she tells the man not to interfere in this matter this time and give in to that person, because next time he will have an even better chance. The main character asked the man if by any chance he didn't have a strict upbringing at home. The man screamed as if she looked bored on ordinary days. Even if Delia didn't see the prediction, each problem already determined the answer. A girl who couldn't leave a guy with a bad reputation after talking with a fortune teller realized that, in fact, she knew that he was dating other women. And thanks to Delia, everything in her heart fell into place. And that's all the reason why they come to this place. And all the people who thought that the fortune teller had solved their problems thanked her generously, throwing coins into the box. After all, this is just a desire to be listened to by someone and receive comfort from him. Having stayed for a minute, one main character was thinking that she could say this to complete strangers. But why couldn't she do that to her own daughter? Delia's thoughts were interrupted by the voice of a young man who asked why she didn't say that she was telling fortunes by the lines of her hand. And at the same time, the fortune teller thought that she needed to concentrate. The main character began to say that with her mysterious magical power, she foresaw his future inscribed on the flower. And in the meantime, the fortune teller concluded that the bass, which probably makes a lot of girls feel cold, excited, the girls with its voice. Delia looks at the man and asks him whether he is looking for true love or wants eternal glory. The main character, meanwhile, thinks about her broad shoulders. Her slender figure looks rich, but not so magnificent as to show off. If so, this should be a uniform. A handsome young man looks at the fortune teller and says nothing, and this causes the main character to be shocked. After some time, a young man with scarlet eyes asks what this mysterious magical power is. The main character thinks that this is the same idiot, but without giving it, he continues to say that fortune-telling only works if it is filled with a cherished desire to know the future, and at the same time asks what kind of future he would like to know. The man stares at the fortune teller and says nothing. Delia got nervous and begins to say that in this case today is fortune-telling, but suddenly the guy gets up and removes the screen from her face, and at the same time the medallion falls to the floor. Suddenly a shout is heard from behind the door that you can't come in here, and a man in military uniform bursts into the fortune-teller's room. Turning to the Duke, he screams that the feudal administration department said that they did not give permission. The military man turned to the girl, and the guy with scarlet eyes asks the military man if he knows this girl. The military man answers that no. For some reason, she just seems familiar. Surprised girls ask, so they didn't come here to find out your fate that a noble gentleman brought you here? The guy asks if she received permission because this is a mandatory condition for doing business on the estate. After all, if you go to the department now and write a statement, they will give you permission to conduct the case. Finally, the girl understood what was going on because she did not know about such formalities and would now fold the tent and quickly leave. The man in military uniform recognized the main character and turning to the Duke asked that this was the girl who had stepped on his robe during the day. The young lady asks what he said and claims that the lady really made fun of her. The guy screams that she is the one he was talking about. A man in a military uniform tells the gentleman that this girl is a commoner because she constantly catches your eye and is somehow suspicious, but first you need to take her with you. Delia, hearing that they wanted to take them away, asked Bellucci if she was okay she was running. Young girls holding hands quickly ran away from the tent because people in military uniform were chasing them. The knight who recognized the girl screams loudly that the little thing looks like a mouse because this time she won't escape. Meanwhile, the Duke saw something lying on the floor. He bent down and picked up the medallion. The escaped girls sat down near a high wall to catch their breath a little, and Delia says that she has already escaped many times. Bellucci, surprised, says that her friend is so fast, and at the same time, Delia asks if this is true. Suddenly, the main character gets up and screams by the way she left a money bag for the day. Delia, realizing her problem, begins to sob and scream because she has gone crazy and everything is down the drain. How can this be unbearable? Bellucci shows her friend a bag of coins and asks if she is talking about this because she took the coins when she grabbed her hand, afraid that those people would take it away from us. The main character, hearing about this, immediately calmed down, and her face, instead of tears, changed to a face with a smile. Delia happily hugged her friend and said with delight how cute and well done she is. The girls became interested in how much they earned. Quickly counting the money, they learned that they had earned 2 orums and 803 ferrums. As expected, Delia thought. Gold, silver, copper, and iron monetary unit in Latin. 1 coin of high value is 10 coins of low value is not so different from the way reality counts money. Not so different from the way money is counted. In reality, aurum is gold. If you count it separately, it will be worth more than 10 pieces of silver. When the friends were counting the coins, they heard someone calling them, and when they turned around, they saw flower sellers. The saleswomen apologized for the fact that they drove Delia out of their territory because the girl took the buyer away from them, justifying themselves by saying that if they didn't sell the flowers, they were hungry because they were in a hurry. That's why it happened. The girls, sobbing sincerely, said that they also wanted to sell flowers as skillfully as the main character, asking if she could teach them the art of successful selling, because for this, they would do everything that she ordered them as long as she taught them. Surprised, Delia turns to Bellucci and asks her where the restaurant with the most delicious food is. Stopping at the entrance to the restaurant, the girls ask Delia if they can enter such a place, and suddenly heard the answer that everything is fine. Hurry up and come in. Inside the restaurant, the girls were met by a woman with a smile on her face and said, "Welcome," in response. The main character said that there were 7 of them. Delia shows the lady the bag and says that she has money. And if you don't have a large table, then cover them individually. The lady looking at the bag asks the girl where she stole it from. The indignant Delia screams, but the lady continues to say, "After all, you all go to sell flowers, and is there anyone in this area who is not aware of your situation?" The woman screaming asks where the money came from the children, who live simply on dumbfoundedness to take it and come to such a place. The lady, without stopping, screams for the girls to get out of here immediately, otherwise she will call the security. The girls wait in the hope that the woman will calm down, but the mistress screaming turns to Mary and let her call the guard here. Hearing this, the girls ask Delia to leave. Delia could not even imagine this, that being from such a class, no matter how much money she earned, the source of it would still be questioned. The main character, without leaving anywhere, asks if this money is stolen. Hearing this, the woman screams and asks, "Then, where did you get it, and do you have evidence?" Delia confidently answered, of course, that noble lady donated this money, and points her index finger at the woman who is sitting at the large table. Approaching the table at which the noble ladies were sitting, Delia cries out, "Madam, thank you very much. Thanks to you, we were also able to afford a hot dinner." The lady, confused, replies that they seem to have confused me with someone. The main character turns to the girls and shouts, "Why they froze, thank you quickly." The girls all approached the women who were sitting at the table having lunch and began to cry out, "Thank you, madam." The woman doesn't understand what we're talking about and excitedly says, "Oh my God, this is some kind of mistake." The ladies who were sitting at the next table with delight asked if she was helping the poor kids, because they were pleasantly surprised, "Madam, this is what it means to belong to a noble family." The woman thought let it be so because everything was fine for her, and in the end she wished the girls bon appétit. Delia, turning to the lady who did not want to let them in, happily states that the lady has confirmed. The main character tells the girls to sit down and order everything. The flower sellers worriedly ask the girl if they will order a lot, and the girl replies that eat as much as you want, because only by trying hard can you grow strong. When the girls ate, I turned to Delia and thanked her, because this was the first time they had tasted such delicious food. And from tomorrow, they will sell flowers, as the main character explained to them. The young lady tells the girls to open their palms and puts money in their hands, but at the same time says that they should not give it to their family but save it for a rainy day. Delia explains to the girls that they may have days when they won't be able to sell flowers because you won't cry every time. She gave the rest of the money that remained in the main character to her friend Bellucci and thanked her for helping her today. As Delia leaves, she tells the girls to hurry home because their parents will be worried. As the flower seller watched the young lady, they thought that she spoke like their granny. Walking home, Bellucci thought about the words that her friend had finally said to her and came to the conclusion that she was right. Bellucci understood that even if the flowers were not sold with this money within a few days, she could rest assured that she would not be punished. From now on, you need to save up little by little so as not to cry tomorrow. The brunette, immersed in her thoughts, entered her house and forgot to knock on the door, and suddenly saw a man. She was a little embarrassed. The man, screaming, asks Bella what this little thing is. The woman replies that it is her own servant. The stranger asks again, turning to the woman because she also has a maid. But the lady replies that he should leave quickly if he has finished his business, then she needs to go to the banquet. The man asks again that it's a banquet in honor of Count Martini's birthday. Why is she going there out of fear? And at the same time, the woman asks what he will do to her and says if he paid, let him leave. An unfamiliar man leaving screams that she is a damned woman and he will never set foot here again. The woman answering calls him a fool because not even 2 days will pass before he hides again. Having heard all this, the brunette asks her mother since when she has been a maid, and in response, she hears that Bellucci should not enter when she has clients in her room. After all, she will be responsible if the mother loses her job due to the fact that she has a child. The girl, having heard these words, felt guilty, and at the same time her mother asks how much money she earned today. The brunette gave her mother only part of her earnings, but she displeasedly asked what these pennies were. Mom demands that her daughter work harder tomorrow. Standing near her daughter, the mother felt a familiar smell and asked if she had eaten meat today. The surprised daughter asked how she knew about it. Bellucci enthusiastically tells the lady in the red dress that today she went to that place on 3rd Street to the largest restaurant. Restaurant Belvin asks the mother, and at the same time the daughter confirms her words. A lady in a red dress approached her daughter and asked if it was delicious, and the girl answered with delight that it was very tasty. Hearing these words, the mother suddenly grabs the girl's hair with her hand, and poor Bellucci screams in severe pain. The angry lady, without stopping, pulls the girl by the hair and says that her mother is in a dirty and smelly place selling her body. The woman asks, looking angrily into her daughter's eyes as if a piece is going down her throat. The lady in the red dress, unable to contain her anger, begins to yell because she told her daughter to return with the money, but not to go eat the meat. The woman suspects that her daughter earned money today and hid it somewhere. A young girl trying to hold her mother's hands screams that she didn't buy food because her friend treated her. The lady screaming claims that her daughter is lying to her and asks where her friends come from. Bellucci screams that she is not lying and at the same time tries to escape from her mother's arms when suddenly coins fall out of her stash. "I saw the coins on the floor." My mother looked at Bellucci in surprise and pushed her away with her hand. At the same time, she said that she was her friend and fed her daughter and gave her money. Having calmed down a little, the woman asks if her girlfriend is wonderful. Having collected money from the floor, the woman in red says that her daughter only learned bad things on the street. Putting a white cape on her shoulders, the mother, turning to her daughter, says that she will return tomorrow and instructs the girl to wash all her things before her arrival. Stopping near the door, the woman says that it doesn't matter to her whether her daughter steals money or gets confused with men on the street. But just don't lie to her, because most of all she hates people who lie. Poor Bellucci, lying on the floor, sobs very much because her mother did not believe her because she told her the truth. Meanwhile, the main character walking down the street saw a board with an inscription that a room was for rent and decided to stay there for one night. Going inside, Delia agreed with the worker on a discount. But when she had to pay, she suddenly remembered that she had given all the coins she had earned to the girls and completely forgot to put money aside for the night. And in this way, the main character found herself on the street alone on a rather cool night. Sitting under the wall of some house on a dark night, Delia thinks that now she will have to choose flower fortune-telling or take away the children's workplace. But at the same time, you still need to get permission because this is all just a hassle. Looking at the night sky, the main character thinking asks herself the question whether this could be the wrong way to earn money because it was not easy to earn it. But there was more spending. Delia understands that without money, it is impossible to solve the problem of clothing, food, and housing because she never thought that she would experience in her own skin the evil of the class system, which she had only read about in books. The poor girl is very cold and says, "Why is it so cold?" Because it was warm during the day. The main character anxiously asks herself what she should do tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, and in general how she should continue to live here. After taking a little nap, Delia heard a voice calling her mom, and it made her wake up. Looking around, Delia saw nothing, and raising her head up, she saw a very bright moon, and a voice asks if she can hear her because she is Jihi. Looking at the night sky, the main character screaming asks if it is true that she is Jihi. A mother who worried about her daughter asks if she is okay, and where she is now talking and whether she has eaten. The daughter answers her mother that she already knows what she will grumble about, and in the meantime answers that she eats well, gets enough sleep, and lives well, and asks not to worry about her because she is more worried about her mother. Delia cried out to her daughter to wait and listen to her because she opened her eyes and suddenly found herself the main character of her novel. The girl continues to say how great it is that she has become younger, but she has a question because she does not understand what is happening. Jihi replies that this is the content of her novel because she tried and again asks if it is worse than her mother thought. Delia looks at the moon and screams and says that no matter how you look at it, she really screwed up by putting the Baron above the Duke. After the woman's words, there was silence because Jihi did not answer. Dahlia again asked the question, why is the main character from a lower class? Wouldn't it be better to make her a girl of noble birth? Jihi asks how her life is, and in response, her mother says that it's good and just great, because now she doesn't have to burden herself with what to cook every morning. The daughter tells her mother to take care of the pendant. Hearing these words, the main character cries out what an unbearable girl she is, because she is trying to survive here, and her daughter is interested in the well-being not of her own mother, but of the pendant. Ji-hee tells her mother that she lost the pendant. Hearing this, the mother screams, "What nonsense," but did not find the pendant on her neck. She suddenly remembered where she could have lost it. The daughter reports that this is not a remarkable wooden pendant, but it exists in a single copy in this world, and asks her mother if she knew about it. Ji-hee, turning to his mother, says that he will give her a hint because she does not know the content of his novel. But the pendant knows why she came to this world and what she should do. The author of the novel demands that the woman find the pendant and then on the day of the full moon illuminate its backside with the moon, because that's all she can tell her. The daughter's voice becomes quieter, but she managed to say that it is imperative for Mom to find a pendant. Meanwhile, Mom screams that she can't hear her well. The bright moon was covered by clouds, and heavy rain began to fall from the sky, and no matter how much the mother screamed, her daughter could no longer hear her. At this time, a young man who was awakened by noise on the street and opening the door shouts that he is not being allowed to sleep. The young girl turns around, and when the guy saw her beauty, he suddenly ran up to her and said in surprise that an angel had descended from heaven. An unfamiliar guy invited Delia into the house and asked for forgiveness so suddenly, explaining that a golden-haired angel similar to her constantly comes to him in a dream. After all, in another word, he can call it inspiration. The young man, eating all the time, talks about himself, and the girl thinks that he is a talker. Dahlia pretending to listen to the guy, but in fact she thinks that her soul has become easier because her daughter is doing well, and what an asshole she is, because after saying a few words, she immediately disappeared. Having warmed up, the girl remembered that she had dropped the pendant in the tent, and thinking that now it's useless to go looking because it's still dark and you can't see anything. The main character, looking back, saw scissors scattered on the floor, and at the same time asking what the young man's name was. The guy replied that his name was Marcel, and the girl also introduced herself and gave her name. Marcel asks in surprise why she was here at such a time, because it's already late and it's raining outside. The guy offers to take Delia home, but she suddenly screams that she doesn't have a home. Marcel asks Delia in surprise if she sleeps outdoors, and screaming, he claims that he won't do that and it's still cold at night. The guy assumes that this is the only reason the girl looks tired, asks if she has a family. The main character falls silent for a minute, but then answers that by the will of fate she became homeless. Worried about the girl, the young man asks her where to sleep today or tomorrow. While enjoying delicious tea, Delia replies that she will find out when the sun rises. Marcel offers the girl another cup of tea, but the girl refuses. When she saw a woman's hand behind Marcel's back, the girl was very scared. Not understanding what happened, the guy asks if everything is okay, and if she has a cold. The girl replies that she simply choked on her tea. Sitting in a stranger's room, the main character thinks how crazy she is, because why did she enter the house of a stranger without even knowing what he was doing? Marcel saw that the guest was shaking all over, thought that she had a cold, and invited her into the fireplace to warm up. The golden-haired girl asked the guy to make tea. He agrees with pleasure and asks if she is hungry, and remembers that she has nowhere to go. The guy offers to spend the night with him because there is a free room on the second floor. Frightened, Delia decides to run, but suddenly she slips and falls to the floor, hitting her head and losing consciousness. The next day, the girl woke up in a large room and, not understanding anything, screamed out where she was, because in front of her stood a mannequin with a beautiful dress. Marcel heard that the guest had woken up and, turning to her, said that she didn't listen to him at all last night, and that's why she came up with all sorts of things. Entering the room, the young man says that all this is Marcel's boutique. Surprised, Delia screams because she thought he was a cold-blooded killer with scissors. Marcel explaining to the girls that he finished moving only last night and therefore did not have time to sort out the luggage because it is impossible for the dresses to become covered with dust, so he covered them. But suddenly the guy thought that even he would be scared, especially when it was dark. The young man showed a sample with a glove for an exhibition and sewing scissors, explaining to the girl that these were his working tools. Dahlia felt ashamed, and she asked Marcel for forgiveness. In response, he also apologized. The guy says that he is a clothing designer, and this place is his atelier because he personally creates the designs and sews the dresses. Dahlia looks at the shelf with women's hats and asks if he did all this himself. Marcel replies that he has been interested in sewing since childhood, and he still has many ideas to work on. The young man shows the girl his dresses and asks which of them she liked best. The girl rubbed herself a little and replies that they are all very beautiful. Marcel says that it is impossible to say for sure whether it fits, because in this case there is a simple solution since you need to try on all the dresses. But what you like, you keep for yourself. Suddenly Delia screams because this can't be done. Marcel asks why in surprise, and maybe she doesn't like it. The girl replies it's impossible to get such expensive things for free. The guy is walking closer to Delia and tells her, after all, he didn't say that he was giving away the dresses for free. Delia concludes that he gives this dress to little girls as an excuse, but Marcel claims that he is not like that, because recently she's been suspecting him of abnormal things. The girl asks how she should understand this. The guy turning to Delia says that he needs her help because only she can do this. The girl thinks for a minute because she doesn't know how she can help him. Meanwhile, a knight bursts into the Duke's room and screaming asks if he is talking about this girl who looks like a chicken and why he suddenly needs her. The Duke replied that his order did not require a reason. The general agreed and bowed before his master. Suddenly, the Duke was invited to a lesson, and as he was leaving, he told the warrior that the golden-haired curly girl had no personal details, but she was eloquent and belonged to the lower class. Let him immediately find her and bring her to him. The general told his subordinates about all this because in order to fulfill the order, he searched the entire area since dawn, but she is nowhere to be found, and claims that they must look for her together with him. The knights scream in surprise because today is the day of collecting the feudal tax, and even if they start looking for her right now, it will take a whole week. Turning to the general, they say that it is not time for him to search either. The worried general says he can't do it alone. After all, there are a lot of girls in this vast territory, and therefore it will be easier to put her on the wanted list and attach her portrait to the test. One of the knights knew how to draw very well, and so he agreed to draw a portrait of the girl. The general quickly gave the order to carry the paper and paints and gather all the guys who were patrolling that day, because he wanted to catch this chicken very soon and present her as a gift to their duke. A girl dressed in an elegant dress receiving surprised glances in her direction, because no one knew whose daughter this was and had never met her in social circles. Delia, being in Marcel's workshop, asks the question of how she can help. The guy offers to put her on a dress and walk down the street. Marcel claims that this is her beautiful image in the best dress, because with her appearance she will certainly attract a lot of attention, and when she is asked where she bought this dress, she must answer that in Marcel's boutique. Walking down the street in an exquisite, beautiful dress, I draw the girl's attention to Delia, and not holding back my curiosity, ask where she bought it. After thinking for a minute, the main character, without having time to answer, saw the tent and quickly ran. After all, her pendant, even if it is the only one in the world, looks like an ordinary wooden trinket. And if it were made of iron, then it would be possible to sell it and get money. Entering inside the tent, the girl saw that nothing had changed, because everything remained as it was. But not finding the pendant, she worriedly wondered where she had dropped it. Walking down the street, Delia thinks that even if she finds herself in the world of the real past, this place that Jihi came up with is an imaginary country inside the work, and all she knows, and this is only the true story which will not exist in the imaginary world. Suddenly, the main character saw a stone sculpture of a naked man who looked very much like David. The girl began to explore the sculpture carefully, examining every detail and trying to understand the subtleties of the artist's skill. The seller approached the girl and asked if she was interested in antiques. After all, our stores provide even more such goods, and let her come in and have a look. Entering the store, Delia saw many interesting things, and at that time the man talks about his product with enthusiasm and shares the key characteristics of the product, emphasizing its advantages and unique features. Girls, it's interesting because there are quite a few real-life relics and works here. Items from the East are mixed with Western exhibits, but the size is confused half the size of the real one. Inspecting all these products, the main character suddenly felt excited and intrigued by the famous work of art. The seller offers her to buy this painting for 400 firmums. The man does not know what to call the artist who painted this picture because he is not very famous. Delia thought that even to the incomparable Da Vinci, they were merciless. The girl says that paintings should not be stored in this form, and because they fade in the sun's rays, she suggests hanging it or turning it over. The man objecting says that these works are not so valuable that they should be handled so carefully. To convince the seller, Delia asks him to look at the amazing expression on his face, which is either smiling or not. After all, this is a very delicate work of a master that even technically there is nothing to complain about. The surprised girl asks a question: if such works of art have no value, then what kind of things are held in high esteem here? The seller asks if the girl knows a lot about this. After all the things presented are of a fairly high level, and most of the works either have an unknown source or a completely nameless author. The man claims that aristocrats prefer famous authors, and therefore do not collect such paintings. After all, they are not significant enough to invest in them. The angry girl, unable to restrain herself, called the autocrats fools, but fearing to be heard, she left and wished the seller successful sales. In the place where it was, it is a creation that has withstood the times of several centuries. And even if we exclude the artist's fame, these works did not deserve such treatment. The girl, not far from the store, heard the salesman address the Duke and decided to quietly eavesdrop on their conversation. The Duke says that he came to ask a question regarding a specific thing. A respected person showed the pendant to the seller and asked if he had ever seen such an ornament. The seller replied that it was the first time he had seen something like this, and at the same time he was interested in where he got it from. The Duke answering says that a girl from a poor family dropped her and he is looking for her. The seller, looking at the pendant, says that he sees this ornament for the first time, and it is specific because these pendants are made to attract good luck. The man examining the pendant continues to say that a large sun placed in the middle is perfect for attracting happiness. But there is a problem that the image of the moon is located on the edge. Delia covered her mouth with her hand, screaming that it was her pendant. She was surprised that the Duke was looking for her, and maybe he remembered her face because she came across Nevo several times, or he didn't recognize her. A good plan came into Delia's mind that she could impersonate a more noble person than him and get her pendant back. As if originally this pendant was lost by a noble lady and a girl from the lower class picked it up. But suddenly, the main character doubts that if she cannot confidently confirm her status, then she will most likely be discovered. But if this happens, she can just grab the pendant and run away. The seller examining the pendant says that from time immemorial the sun has been considered a symbol of good luck, and there must be some reason for carving the moon, and he should check the back of the pendant. Eavesdropping on the conversation, Delia thinks that after all, there is nothing on the other side, and this will be possible to find out on the day of the full moon, because you have to wait another month. The man continues to say that the material of the pendant is similar to baobab wood, and from its appearance one can assume that it was made not so long ago. The seller apologized because he couldn't say anything more. When the Duke left, the merchant apologized for his impudence and advised that it would be better if he got rid of such a thing which brought misfortune, because on the polar night several people died. Coming from a walk, Delia asks Marcel if he knows Duke Pearl. But Marcel replies that he's hearing it for the first time, but he's dumb. Then he thinks that in fact the Duke is an unimportant person here, so he cannot know anything about him. When talking with Marcel, the main character is interested in which title is higher, Baron or Duke. The guy replies that the title of Baron is higher. The girl again asks what rank the clergyman belongs to. Marcel asks in surprise who it is. Dahlia understood because there are no believers here. Marcel explains to the girl that there are three main categories, since the king, baron, marquis, count, viscount, duke belong to the aristocracy. Knights belong to the common people. Free people and serfs and slaves and tramps do not belong to the lower class. Delia realized that in fact, only the baron and the duke had changed. After listening to the guy, the girl asked whether he belonged to the free people. Marcel replied that she offended him because in terms of status, he was higher than the Duke, and in response he said that she was from the lower class. The main character screaming asks how he knew that she was from the lower class. The guy replies that he made a conclusion based on her clothes because these clothes are worn only by slaves or tramps belonging to the lower class. Therefore, anyone can guess its origin. Delia asks sadly, expressing her sadness in the tone of her voice, because knowing this, he still dressed her in such a dress. Marcel replies that this is the Imperium, a country where only force reigns, and in a place who has power is perceived not only by status. and for everyone the definition of strength varies depending on its value system. Therefore, for some power will be power and for others combat assistance or intelligence. Continuing to speak, Marcel asserts that whoever has the power is the people of the Imperium and will be treated as an equal, regardless of status. But for Nevo, the greatest power lies in beauty, and that's why he accepts her as his equal. Delia, having listened carefully to Marcel again, asks him a question, because isn't status the most important thing? And he receives treatment corresponding to his lower status. The guy agrees with the girl, but the main character again asks that he has acquaintances from the aristocracy since the influence of disputes and disagreements among the nobility of the Imperium. Marcel screams that he doesn't know. After all, to create sparkling outfits, you must take care of your pure inner world, and a secular society mired in hidden struggle only denigrates the soul. The girl expressing her interest asks because not everyone can afford such a dress. Marcel replies that expensive things can cost as much as a whole house. The main character asks Marcel to ask the girls from tomorrow that they come here if they have a suitable workplace for her. The surprised guy asks if she doesn't like wearing the dresses he created. Delia screams and says he's joking. The main character says that she wants to catch on with the aristocracy and will become personally close to the nobility. After all this way, he can sell them dresses. By sticking to this method, they will kill two birds with one stone. But Marcel claims that girls from the aristocracy can be met here, and she does not need to suffer. After listening carefully to the guy, the girl says that she doesn't want to constantly bow at their feet, and let him imagine that the so-called noble people gathered together the three of them on their private property and leisurely sipped tea and discussed current fashion or someone's reputation, and if it was likely that they would see her dress on the street. Delia continues to argue that it would be better to capture the attention of girls of noble birth who have the power of influence and which everyone adore than from the lower class. Not knowing what to answer, Marcel agrees with the girl. The guy says that if she is sure of this, then he has nowhere to go. He cannot forcibly hold her. Delia remembered that she had one more question asking the guy if he could write. The warrior who agreed to paint a portrait of the missing girl cries out that the job is done. Marcel asks. Probably each family has one book, and the girl did a great job of learning all the letters in one night. The girl thinks that this is the first time she has seen such writing, and the principle is that the alphabet is replaced in each letter. She surprised thinks that Marcel has only one book. Going out onto the street, Delia heard girls selling flowers and screaming said that she should be as noble an aristocrat as possible. The main character was in such a hurry that she didn't even notice her friend, but Bellucci recognized her.